We're near the end of June, so it is time for a recap of what I've been feeding my cats this month. As a reminder, I'm neither a vet nor a feline nutritionist, and this is not professional advice. I'm just a girl trying to feed her cats the best she can with the budget she's got. So buckle up, Bethany, let's get into it. A little background on my cats and my goals when it comes to nutrition, just so that you have some context into the choices I've made this month. These are my two cats, Sir George and Lady Eleanor. They are both 2-year-old ragdolls that have been neutered and spayed. George weighs about 13.5 pounds and Eleanor weighs 13 pounds. Based on their body condition and activity levels, I aim for around 300 calories per day that I split into 3 meals and sometimes a little snack. Now, you may need to adjust that calorie amount if your cat is smaller or larger, if they're still intact, or if they're in a different life stage than we are. One thing that's important to me and that I've implemented in my cat's diet is a food rotation. I do this for a few reasons. Number one is the budget. In a perfect world, I'd have all the money to spend on the absolute best food for George and Eleanor, but that's just not realistic for me. So I like to pair high quality food with budget-friendly options in the same meal rotation as a way to compromise. In my cat feeding journey, I've learned that there's no one perfect food. So by rotating in these different options, I can minimize overexposure to any ingredients I'm not crazy about and stay within a budget that works for me. Now, it might sound excessive, but I rotate my food monthly and serve 3 different kinds of food daily. This is also partly due to the fact that my cats get bored of their food really quickly. Back when they were kittens, I used to feed them the same food 3 to 5 times a day for several months at a time, and it completely turned them off of some foods. So this rotation helps prevent them from entirely rejecting a food again, and also gets them used to eating different proteins, textures, flavors, and brands, so that we're not in any trouble if a favorite product is one day recalled, goes out of stock, or has formulation changes. As far as the nutritional profile I look for, cats are obligate carnivores, which means they require an animal-based diet to meet their nutritional needs. Cats in the wild typically consume prey that is high in protein, moderate in fat, and low in carbohydrates, and the diets of our domestic kitties should ideally follow those same proportions. Now, I don't always get it perfect, but I try to stick to foods that are greater than 45% protein, less than 40% fat, and less than 13% carbs on a dry matter basis. I make sure all of the food I buy has been certified as meeting AAFCO's nutritional standards for a complete and balanced diet, so that on top of those macros, George and Eleanor are getting the appropriate vitamins, minerals, and micronutrients that they need. With each meal I'm sharing here, I'm including an estimated breakdown of the nutrients on a dry matter basis that highlights the protein, fat, and carbs of each food. I've lumped fiber, ash, and minerals into the other category. I can't guarantee these numbers are 100% accurate. I'm just going off of communications I've had with company reps, info on brand websites, and in some cases rough calculations. I'm also listing the primary ingredients without minerals and supplements so you can get a clearer picture of what's in each food. You'll notice that I primarily feed a wet food diet, and this is because feeding canned food is an easy way to hit those macros that I want, as well as keep my cats hydrated. A lot of indoor cats are prone to health issues like urinary tract blockages, diabetes, and obesity, and feeding a moisture-rich diet with a good nutritional profile can decrease the risk of some of these issues occurring. All right, you've made it. We're at meal 1 of the day. If you know us, you will not be surprised to see that I'm feeding Nulo. This is the Freestyle turkey and chicken pate recipe. George and Eleanor each get half of a 5.5 ounce can. This flavor actually comes in 12.5 ounce cans, and depending on where you buy it from, ends up being around 28 cents per ounce of food, which is pretty great considering the ingredients you get. The only thing I don't love about this Nulo flavor is that it has tuna in it. I try to avoid fish in my food when I can, but I figured since it's not primarily fish-based and they get it just once a day, that I'd let the tuna slide. Let me know what you think about that and if you have strong opinions on fish in your food. Now, this is one of the more complicated meals of the day because I'm adding in a few goodies. These are love bugs from Adored Beast Apothecary, and no, they're not made of insects. My vets recommended probiotics when I first got George because he had tons of tummy issues, and they recommended I stick with them throughout adulthood. Mixing in these probiotics has definitely made all the food transitions we do a little easier on my cats. Next is a Hairball supplement from Vet's Best. They get 2 tablets daily, so this is the first one. I talked about this last month and how I wasn't sure if it works, and I'm here to report back that since adding the egg yolk on top of this supplement, we haven't had any more hairballs, and I'm noticing more hair in the litter box, which is what we want. So I think I'll likely repurchase this next hairball season in the fall, winter. Last, I'm adding about 4 grams of Ziwi Peak air-dried cat food in the beef flavor and mixing it in. As we get to the end of the month, George and Eleanor are already over some of these foods, so adding the Ziwi Peak as a topper gives them some fun texture and added flavor. I like the Ziwi Peak air dried line because it's pretty much just made of animal products and for a dry food has very little carbs. If you're using it as a topper, just watch out for the amount you use because it's not a low calorie food. So I've said it before, but in general, I'm a really big fan of Nulo. Some of their wet foods are high in protein and low in carbs. I love that they're transparent with their ingredients and nutrition. You can get detailed nutritional analyses on their website. I wish that the Patés didn't have fish. Fish is an easy way for pet food companies to bump up protein as well as provide palatability, so I get why it's in there, but woof. Nulo, please make me a pate without fish. I'll be your best customer, I swear. Anyway, George and Eleanor enjoyed this food. I wouldn't say they love it, but it's a solid, consistent choice for us, and with the topper, they'll finish it no problem. Second meal of the day, we have Tiny Tiger turkey and giblets pate recipe. Or is it giblets? Giblets? I don't know. Tiny Tiger is Chewy's brand, and they make a lot of budget-friendly options. They are even cheaper than some of the Fancy Feast patés. The pate line meets my nutritional goals in terms of macros, and this is the flavor without fish. George and Eleanor each get one 3-ounce can. Both my cats really like this food. It has unnamed meat byproducts, which I'm not crazy about. I'm not anti-byproduct, but I do like foods to have a bit more transparency with their ingredients, and I like the majority of the protein in a food to come from quality meat sources. With that said, the beauty of a food rotation is that I can balance this out with other higher quality ingredients throughout the day, and I'm getting a great price with this. And here comes George for some praise and pets. A fun fact about George is that he's an affection eater, which means he likes to get attention while he eats. He almost always comes to find me for praise in the middle of a meal. Alright, last meal of the day is this Lotus Just Juicy Pork Stew. George and Eleanor each get one 2.5-ounce can. This food is fun because it's a different texture and a novel protein. You get the shredded meat in a broth, and you get pork, which just isn't something you see all too often at the pet store. Some of the meat chunks are a little on the large side, so I do try and break it up a bit. On top, we're adding our second tablet of the Vet's Best Hairball supplement, and then 1 quail egg yolk per cat. These are freeze-dried and they're from Arya Sit. We had a brutal time with hairballs back in April and May, and the lecithin in egg yolk is supposed to help prevent hairballs. So I originally picked out this food because George and Eleanor loved their venison recipe. Although the macros are great on this with a lot of protein and George loves it, Eleanor just is not a big fan of this particular flavor. In general, she's not crazy about shredded food, so sometimes I have to crumble a little freeze-dried chicken on top to get her to finish. So given how expensive it is and the fact that Eleanor doesn't love it, I probably won't buy this specific flavor again. But that said, I think it's important to add in some fun and different proteins for nutritional variety. Plus, the idea of George and Eleanor chasing a pig for dinner cracks me up. I do guess though that lions in the wild go for hogs, so it's not that crazy of a protein choice. All said and done, I think it's worth picking up a can at your local store to see if your cat likes pork or likes the broth and shreds texture. So that's it for this month. We'll have a whole new food rotation next month, so stick around. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments and I'll do my best to get back to you. Toodles!